The average community college today has a penetration rate of about at least 3% in its community, meaning that about 3% of the people in any community at any point in time has got some relationship, taking a class or some form of instruction or additional lifelong learning opportunity through a community college. So we play a major role. Today, that's expanded into, in Florida, I think we do a great job of it, the whole dual enrollment concept, where students in high school can begin to take college courses. Last 2014, we had 3 young people graduating from Florida Keys Community College prior to them actually earning a high school diploma. And you look across the system here in Florida and you'll see quite a bit of that happening. So there's a significant role that we play. But in spite of the numbers of students who find themselves at community colleges, there is still that stigma out there where many of your high school counselors, rather than work directly with the students to help them to realize their potential, to help them realize that they are, quote unquote, college material, will say to them, well, if you don't do the following, you're going to end up at a community college. Well, ending up at a community college is not a bad thing. It's absolutely not a bad thing. Tell that to people like Jim Lehigh from PBS, who graduated. I was sitting at a conference in Jacksonville probably about 7 or 8 years ago. And it was the annual convention for the American Association for Community Colleges. This individual walked by my table and he tapped me on the shoulder and he said, "You must be one of the Brashear brothers." And I said, "No, the Brashear brothers are those gentlemen who are dressed much better than I am, sitting across from me." I don't know, but I brought a story along with me that I thought I would share with you all. And some of you all will recognize this. He was the son of a sharecropper. Get my glasses out, this isn't gonna work. And was portrayed by an Oscar-winning Hollywood movie, Life. And you all remember the story of the 2000 film Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. And he was the first U.S. Navy, first African-American master diver, and then the first amputee to earn master diver certification. And this is the story of this man who had joined the recently desegregated U.S. Navy in 1948, determined to become a deep-sea diver, but initially assigned to labor in the ship's galley. He wrote over 100 letters pleading his case. He was eventually admitted to diving school. He endured unabated racial discrimination, rural training program to become the Navy's first African-American diver. In 1966, while attempting to recover a nuclear weapon lost off the coast of Spain, he severely injured his left leg in a shipboard accident. It occurred at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, arrived at the hospital at 11 o'clock at night. He says, "The doctor thought I was dead. He had me outside the morgue." And he said this in his documentary in the Men of Honor DVD. He checked again and said, "I had a very faint heartbeat. The word I use, according to Brashear, is I survived the morgue." To shorten his recuperation period and thus improve his odds of continuing his diving career, he asked to have his leg amputated, fitted with prosthesis. He embarked on an excruciating physical therapy program to get back in shape. And an almost equally excruciating process of convincing the Navy he could still pull his weight. Of all the obstacles and adversity that I met prior to that, that was my biggest, convincing the Navy that I could in fact stay in it and perform my duties and perform maneuvers that you have to do in diving school when you've got 2 legs. This is a story of a man of honor, as he was called in this movie. But this is the story of not just an African American, this is a story of an American.
Absolutely.
This is the story of what happens at community colleges. This is the story of how community colleges turn lives around. Because 38% of community college students will receive a Pell Grant, some form of financial aid, and that amount is only about $3,000. At Florida Keys Community College, our tuition for an in-state student is just over $100 a credit. It takes 60 credits to earn an associate's degree. The opportunities are there. One of our struggles is getting people in. In this community, we have about 40% of those kids coming out of high school who will not consider college as an option. And across the country, we have devised everything from the Male Initiative, African American Initiative, the Black Male Initiative, to try to encourage more young men in general, but especially young African American men, to realize the potential and the value of education. And I say this not to tout that everyone needs to be a history major, or that everyone needs to be a philosophy major, but I say this because even if you intend to be an auto tech, even if you intend to be a plumber, and there's a story I tell over and over again about a friend of mine walking to a very rich, very affluent home where he was asked to install a hot tub. And the owner said, I bought the tub, it's sitting there, I just need for you to hook it up. There is the electrical outlet, the plumbing comes this way, just hook the thing in. And he says to this homeowner, well, I need to do a lot more work than this. Do you know what's under these floorboards? And the owner says, well, what difference does it make? He says, well, let me share this with you. Do you know how many pounds are in a gallon of water? The homeowner says, well, no. He says, it's on average about 10 pounds. So how many gallons of water will this hot tub hold? Well, why does it matter? How many people do you expect to put in this hot tub at any given point in time? It's at 6. He said, well, let's do an average of about 150 pounds per person. He said, do you have any idea if this space here is going to be able to take the force, the weight, when this tub is full and it has 6 individuals in it? He said, I could do this for you, but I'll probably hear from you in a few weeks when you're suing me because it's now on your first floor. And so the value of education and the things that we do at community colleges is much more than the discussion that we were having back when we were trying to think about, well, is it a talented 10? Because when you expose people to a variety of opportunities, they will find the one that's best suited for them. And that's what community colleges do. And it's still very affordable. You know, I listened to President Obama's plea to have free community college. I'm not a believer, but I'm a believer in finding the resources to help those individuals to succeed. Because we can hand them that check and show them the front door. But most of our institutions, we don't have the resources to provide the support that a lot of our young people need to help them to succeed. So what I'm looking for is the support to get the resources, because with the average person getting a $3,000 Pell Grant, the money is there. What I don't have is all the other stuff that we need, which is the person to mentor them, the person to help them, the person to guide them, the person to talk to them about careers. Because so many of our, particularly public institutions, are so saddled with accountability requirements, sorry, Senator, that we spend most of our time doing that as opposed to what we're really supposed to be doing, which is mentoring and educating our youth.
You know, you mentioned, as you were talking about, it almost seemed like you were expressing a bias, if you will, of people not really approaching community colleges as a real viable opportunity for higher education. I don't know, you know, in Miami-Dade, our Miami-Dade College is really viewed in, I think, in some sort of esteem, Dwight. You know, I think it's viewed kind of high. But one thing I do know, though, is that I talk to some people about, they want to learn how to do something. And I say, well, they teach that at Miami-Dade College. Or, you want to learn how to cook. They teach that at Miami-Dade College. You want to learn how to do photography. They teach that at Miami-Dade College. You want to do karate. They teach that at Miami-Dade College. You want to know how to ride a motorcycle. They teach that at Miami-Dade College. It's like so many things that you can learn of any nature that I don't think people are really aware of those opportunities that exist at the community college. Dwight, you want to respond to something?
Oh, well, I was just going to touch on the fact that I think what Dr. Gueverra has laid out is something I see commonplace in high school. I worked in secondary education now for 16 years, and even with Miami-Dade College, there's this unwritten notion that it is the 13th grade, the notion of going to a...
regular colleges like that too.
Right, and so you have these folks that are, it's the weirdest thing, and the critique will come from somebody who may have like a C- average, but they're just like, nah, that's just, there's nothing more I can acquire by going to college, and that's unfortunate. But a lot of, I think, the stigmatization of higher education comes from our societal lack of interest in pushing education, and the opportunities and benefits of it, especially in communities of color. I see, we talk about the propensity of Latino and Black students to not go versus their white counterparts, but where's the discussion happening in our communities? You know what I mean? Like, one thing I remember distinctly, the barbershop I used to go to when I was in elementary and middle school, the walls were adorned with pennants